You got pretty lipstick on. I didn't put
Oh,
it.
thank you. Thanks. Got to go with the lipstick. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Hello. It's Amy and Janet here. And we just decided to do a quick little recording. I wanted to interview some people, just some informative interviews that could help all of us. And Janet just celebrated her 20-year anniversary of doing this work. Congratulations on that. What a tremendous accomplishment that must feel like. And so we just wanted to get some of your sage wisdom in all of those 20 years and, just see what little nuggets you can give to us today. So thank you for being here. First off, can you just tell everybody your website and your Facebook and all that lovely stuff?
All that stuff. Well, my website is hypnosisforhope.com. And it's for FOR. And my, what did you say? Facebook too is Hypnosis for Hope. If you search it on Facebook, and Instagram is Janet_Philbin _LCSW, all lowercase. So
cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't start off in hypnosis. You started in a more traditional, right?
Yeah. No, I'm a social worker by trade. I went to I went to NYU, which is a very traditional clinical training ground for social workers, and no one talked about hypnosis or spirituality or anything like that when I was in social work school. I don't even think I knew hypnosis existed for anything clinical. I just thought it was stage hypnosis, So this was just something that fell in my lap, so to speak. A piece of mail showed up at my office one day, and I didn't get mail in my office because the mail was very unreliable where my office used to be. So anything important I had sent to my home address. And I had got this piece of mail one day for this place in about 20 minutes away for a 100-hour hypnosis certification training. And I called them and I talked to the guy who runs it, and I said, okay.
Is this when you were a social worker?
Yeah, I had my practice, had opened, that was in 2002, and I opened my private practice in 1999. So, I was already a social worker. And before my practice, I worked in healthcare in city hospitals and in long-term care and geriatrics and hospice work. So.
And was there always something that you thought was missing in that work for you?
My plan in social work school was never to be in private practice. I remember sitting in class with these women. I can almost remember the woman's name. I could see what she looks like. And she was the same age as me. We were straight out of college. We were 21 years old, and couldn't wait to get into private practice. I remember looking at her going, "You're nuts. You know nothing. There's no way you could do private practice." I wanted no part of that responsibility. I wanted to work with my cute little old people. That was my goal. Mm-hmm. I was going to work with cute little old people and just do that. Yeah, so this wasn't on my radar at all. Hypnosis wasn't on my radar. Certainly coaching that we're all doing now was the furthest thing from my radar. In fact, I always kind of was a little snooty about it and looked down my nose in recent years, till maybe the last 4 or 5 years, about social workers or other therapists that became coaches, because I was like, why do you need to be a coach? How can a coach even help someone? Why would you go to a coach rather than a therapist? So I had all these misconceptions about, what coaches did and who they were. So for me, it's just been an evolution. As something shows up, I just say yes.
So when you got that piece of mail that was like hypnosis, and it just kind of came into your universe, were you thinking maybe this is something that can propel me, or were you feeling like there's something missing that I'm not offering these people that I know I could give more, or, what really, because we all get mail, but that one really like, wow, so what was it about that really attracted you?
That's a good question. The timing of it was perfect. I had a very small caseload at the time, and I had one woman who I was working with, whose parents both died in a plane accident in a South American country. They were on like one of these prop planes taking a tour, and it hit a mountain. It was terrible. And so we were really working on feelings of aloneness. And no matter how much talk therapy we did, we couldn't figure out. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out with her. We could not understand this aloneness, because she wasn't alone physically in her life. It was this deep feeling of aloneness, and it wasn't even necessarily connected to the grief. It was something that was there prior to the parents dying. Them dying got her into my office. So when the hypnosis letter showed up, I thought, oh, maybe this is how I can do it, because the way I've been trained isn't doing it. I can only get her so far. Talk there. I mean, maybe 20 years later, if she was still with me, we would have gotten there if I didn't learn any new skills, but probably not. She would have had to go to somebody else. And as I learned it, I practiced on her. And sure enough, we got right down to the inner child pretty quick. Once I learned enough, we were able to get down. I think I even remember the session. She was like 8 years old. And honestly, just really being ignored by her parents. She didn't have this abusive, traumatic childhood. It was more emotional neglect, but I would use that softly, but just where she was ignored.
So was this your first experience with inner child? Like your first real exposure, or?
In a clinical way, yeah. I mean, I personally had already been on my own healing journey for my own trauma from 1991. So I knew about doing healing, inner child work from a personal experience, working with my own therapist, being in my own support groups, but not doing inner child work like that with my clients.
Okay. So was it thrilling that first time?
Well, it's exciting. Hypnosis is a lot of fun, even though I'm dealing with people in their most frail moments, but it is so transformative. No matter, I've been doing this since 2002, the hypnosis. It still blows my mind how effective it is. It's crazy. There really aren't words. Like I look up sometime and I'm like, really? Like looking at source, universe, spirits, whatever you believe in.
And so you really feel anchored in your purpose when you're doing this.
When I'm doing that, I do.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so what would you tell your younger self now, in your transitions from social worker to hypnosis to even parenting coach now? What would you tell yourself at those different spots, if you could?
That's a good question, Amy. I love that question. I would tell her.
So many of us are starting out.
Yeah.
We have peers.
Yeah. No, it's really good. Honestly, I would tell her, be patient with herself. Not to get stuck in the frustrations of the small stuff. And just when opportunities show up, continue to say yes. Just continue to say yes. Because that's forward momentum. I don't know what's going to happen if I say yes to this opportunity. But what I do know is if I say no to the opportunity, I know I've just shut down something. I could say yes to it, explore it, and not like it. That's fine. But if I say no without exploring it, what have I lost out on? Like one time I was still new in my practice. I went and did a Gestalt training, which is a pretty existential kind of psychotherapy, but very well established. And so I went for a 1-day intensive kind of training. And I thought, yeah, this isn't for me. But I thought it was going to be for me because it's kind of out there, a little bit free form, but there's form within it. But it didn't resonate. So, I did it for 1 day. I was like, I just knew. So like to trust myself and to keep trusting myself and keep trusting myself, even when I don't know.
With the hypnotherapy, you just knew then. Or
I took a little.
you thought it would help your one client, right?
Because of her, I thought it would help. And I had a friend of mine who I used to work with, another social worker who I worked with in the city hospital. And I remember going over to her apartment for dinner and saying, "Oh, Mary, look at this letter I got." And she was like, "I don't know, Janet, really?" She's a drug alcohol counselor, very, very good at what she does. And she's like, it's a little bit, airy fairy, a little bit out there. And I was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to do it. And so she really wasn't supportive.
Mm.
But I did it anyway.
Good. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so next question, since we all have Dr. Shefali in common, how did you come to her teachings?
By mistake. Uh, Honestly, the way I found Shefali was I was at a meeting with colleagues, and we had a guest speaker that day. And at the end of the meeting, this guest speaker had a young child, and we got talking about children, as women usually do. And she mentioned how she was reading this book, The Awakened Family, by this Dr. Shefali Saveri. And I was like, what was that name? Tell me about the book. And she told me one thing about one technique she used based on what Shefali said in The Awakened Family and how it made an impact on her 4-year-old daughter. So I went right on Amazon. I got the book. It's only 3 years ago. I didn't know about Shefali when she wrote The Conscious Parent. I didn't see her on Super Soul Sunday like a lot of people did when she was first on. I had no idea about her. And I read that Awakened Family in 2 weeks. And I was hooked. And I said to myself, and I remember saying to my husband, I said, oh my God, I wish I could teach this. I wish I could train with Shefali and teach this. So, then I started following her on Facebook, and, as with all of us, one thing led to another.
Beautiful. Okay, that's good. Good lead into my next question, which are some of your favorite books, especially in the field, for all of us?
Okay, well, obviously Shefali's. But honestly, like from the Coaching Institute, The Explosive Child wound up being one of my favorites. I had read Dan Siegel's work before, so he wasn't like new to me. I really like him. And the other one that sticks out is The Drama of the Gifted Child. And the third book, not third, I don't know how many I've just listed off. Another book, which we didn't actually wind up doing the book club on, but was the reading list, is Driven to Distraction by Ned Hollowell, the ADHD, ADD book. I thought that book was fantastic. I always also had a limited view and understanding of what ADD, ADHD was. And after I read that book,
oh, I haven't read that one yet.
It blew it up for me. It really, really did.
Yeah, we are implementing the CPS of Ross Green right now, of the Explosive Child, Plan B in the house right now.
Awesome.
We're in full mode and retraining everyone. So it's been really eye-opening. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I second that.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
What about any favorite books personally? I mean, I still love to read all kinds of beautiful fiction, and
I love to read too. I'm an avid reader. I haven't read any fiction in the last year, thanks to Shefali, but I love historical fiction. Like I love John Jakes and Nelson DeMille, and I love murder mysteries. What's his name? Jonathan Kellerman is one of my favorite authors, and oh boy, I can't think of her name right now. There's another female murder mystery author I really like, who's Marcia Muller. And I really love her series. I like series that follow the same character, like throughout all the books.
I wish I had a show where I could be like, and that name will be on the bottom of your screen. Just click on Janet's website. We need a bigger team. Okay, just kidding. Okay, so last question is, any last words of advice, especially for our newbies here that are just starting coaching?
Wow, I wish I had advice. Just be where you're at. I think there's like this big, I have to do more. I have to do it like this one, or this one knows what they're doing better than me. I don't think there is a better than. I think we all have to come from a place of our own authenticity, and and work from there. Only take on clients that you resonate with when they talk to you about their presenting problem. If it's something that A, doesn't interest you, B, you don't feel is in your wheelhouse, don't do it. Like, I will not work with eating disorders, substance abuse disorders, or perpetrators. That is out. It's not, and I don't work with children. Funnily enough, it's not my thing. I'm not good with kids. In that way, in a therapeutic way. If I was dealing with a family and coaching them, that'd be a different story now. But before the Institute, I wouldn't have touched it. So make sure you're working with what's in alignment with where you're called to work, and not just take on any case, because they'll snooker you. Mm-hmm. They really, really will. You'll get totally taken.
Feed on your confidence a little too,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, because people, they still try to be manipulative in a session, even though they're coming to you for help. One of my early cases, and I was just taking anything. I mean, my first client I had was $25 a week for the first 8 months. That was it. Mm-hmm. And I bartered office space with someone who has been my mentor now for all these years, another social worker. And then she gave me a second case. It was the first case was an infertility case. Infertility was, and still is, one of my big specialties. And then the second case was a postpartum case. This woman had postpartum psychosis, but I wound up really working with the husband. And after 4, 5, 6 months working with him, all of a sudden he comes clean that he's been using cocaine and stuff. And I never did drug abuse treatment ever. I worked in the city hospital with inner city folks. I did do AIDS. I worked in the AIDS field, which I loved. But these people really weren't using drugs actively anymore. So this guy was totally snookering me and lying to me and everything. And then, I mean, I was glad he came clean. But then at that point, I was like, all right, now that I know what's going on, now I know why I couldn't help you. You weren't honest. I don't do this. Let's get you to the right place. So that was a big lesson for me. So even the things that come up that cross your path and they don't work out, understand they're there to teach you something, because that's how you're going to learn what you like to work with and what you don't like to work with also, So not to be afraid to say no to a case, mm-hmm. or if you're in the middle of it, say, yeah, this is just not working. Let's find you somebody else,
So I hear you saying, say yes to everything, but if you get into it and it's not for you, fine, right. Accept it, move on.
I'm not saying say yes to every client. I'm saying say yes to every opportunity.
Okay.
Right. So if someone says, hey, come speak at the library with me, mm-hmm. even if you have no idea what you're going to speak about, say yes and do it.
Okay.
Right? If someone says, hey, you interested in coming to this conference? Come do this networking event with me. Meet me and my colleague at Starbucks. Just go. Who cares if you're scared? Okay. Then we're just letting fear get in our way. But when it comes to clients, mm-hmm. no, you need to be clear on the type of client you want to work with. Now, they may show up. You may think one thing and they show up and you get a totally different thing. Then you need to move them along, as Shefali, taught us. Mm-hmm.
And how do you just trust yourself in that you do a first consultation meeting?
Yeah, I always talk to people over the phone first. And then even after I talk to them over the phone and get a good sense, I'll say to them, okay, great, let's set up an appointment. And then we can see in person if we're a good fit. And if either one of us decide at the end of the first session we're not a good fit, I will help you. No hard feelings, A, and B, I'm going to help you find someone who is a better fit for you.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of just know that just the way you know whether you like, a preference in anything in life, right?
Yeah, because they could come to me telling me on the phone one thing, and then I get them in front of me and I really start taking a history of their life. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You didn't tell me you were in jail. You didn't tell me you've only been sober for 6 months on the phone. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah.
Then maybe, so you have to assess each situation separately.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Janet.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks. And if you guys like this stuff, if you want me to do some more interviews, let me know and I'll try to line some up. Okay, guys?
Sounds
Thank you.
awesome. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.